Every fall, there are dead leaves to rake up. It's inevitable. From cells to stars, everything dies in the end. That's just the way things work. But here's the thing. Our strange rock itself can also be lethal.
You know, up in space, you're looking down at Earth and you go, wow, what a beautiful spot that is down there, that blue orb out there in the distance. But I'll tell you, it's an angry planet.
We tend to think of Earth as our life support, but it's not there to support us at all.
And as you look down on it, it's a place that's violent, that's beautiful, that's crazy, that's intense.
Mother Nature is a serial killer. No one is better.
Eight astronauts with over 1,000 days in space between them can tell us how being up there helped them to truly understand what goes on down here. We think we know our home, but here's the secret. We wouldn't be here without mass suicide, fatal passions, and an event so devastating, it makes the extinction of the dinosaurs look like a tea party. Earth might be the weirdest place in the whole universe.
You know, I think every astronaut understands that going to space is a high-risk endeavor and that your life is on the line. I came to realize this more than most when I spent 5 months living on another world, the Russian space station Mir, where survival was a daily struggle.
Just want to give you a little tour of Mir. I'm Jerry Linenger, of course.
Mir mission EO-22 would turn out to be the longest 5 months of my life. Back on Earth, sometimes I can close my eyes and I can be back up there again.
Your go for shuttle ODS hatch opening for Delta P under point 2.
We opened the hatch of the old 13-year-old Mir space station, and it's kind of like going down into Grandma's cellar. Stuffed with leftover equipment, garbage. I was really shocked. It took up the majority of our time just trying to keep that thing going. When you're up there trying to use your limited resources to stay alive, it finally sort of hit me as, wow, the survival instinct, you know, was a powerful, innate force within each of us. I had about a month on Mir when I hear that master alarm going off, blaring. Warning panel just lit up like a Christmas tree, fire warning lights, low voltage lights, everything flashing, smoke lights. Look down the length of the module, and coming out of a solid fueled oxygen canister is a big flame, low torch-like intensity, 2 or 3 feet in length, sparks flying off the end of it, sparks flying everywhere. I have never seen smoke spread like it spread on